Good morning and welcome back to another Environmental Learning Centers of Connecticut Facebook Live program. We are here on the Indian Rock Nature Preserve in the Terra Lab where our live animal collection from the Barnes Nature Center is temporarily housed. And this morning we are going to do a spot on an animal that's commonly found outside in Connecticut, but not here on the Indian Rock Nature Preserve. We're going to use our taxidermy friend here to learn about them. They are the beaver. So we're going to talk a little bit about the natural history of this animal. We're going to take a look at their skull, some very cool features of their skull, and why this animal is so important in ecosystems, especially wetland ecosystems. So the beaver here is so important, we call them a keystone species. Now, if you remember back to if you're an adult, your high school biology class, keystone species, this is an animal that they enhance the habitat they're living in, and it can benefit more wildlife than just their own species. So beavers were really known for what? They're building beaver dams, they're building lodges in a river, stream, pond, lake, a wetland. So this creation of a beaver dam and enhancing that area provides habitats for other animals. Insects, spiders, frogs, salamanders, turtles, fish, ducks, all these animals you find around water. Mink, otters as well. And that's so important. We'll talk a little bit more about it in detail later. But standing trees that are killed by flooding water create shelter for animals. And we'll talk a little bit about the flooding and how flooding benefits these animals too. So let's start talking a little bit about the beaver itself. It is considered a rodent. It's the largest rodent in North America. They have a little bit of a weight range, going from 35 to almost 60 pounds. And if we'll look at the whole body here, not including the tail. Okay, if we're looking at the tip of the nose to where the tail starts, this animal can be 2 to 3 feet long. And then we're going to add another foot for the tail. We'll talk about the importance of the tail in just a little bit too. The front feet, we've got 4 feet on this animal. The front feet are much more hand claw shaped, where the back feet are webbed. So this animal is an aquatic swimmer. We've got very dense, thick, rich brown fur. Since this animal is spending a lot of time in the water, it's waterproof and insulating, so they're warm. Okay, this is an animal that does not, it will keep going into the water even when it's cold, when it's wintertime, so they've got to stay warm. And when you're looking out, if you happen to see a beaver, keyword if you happen to see a beaver, because they're going to sense you before you see them, so they're going to go hide. But if you happen to see a beaver out in the wild, it's kind of hard to tell males and females apart. There's no big difference between them, except for if we have a female with babies, then her mammary glands will be a little bit larger if she's nursing. But this animal, like I said, the beaver, very, very aquatic. They're using those webbed feet. So they're going to be found by rivers, streams, swamps. And they're not eating fish. A lot of people think that beavers consume fish. We're going to take a look at their teeth in a little bit. We can get a sneak peek now. A lot of people think that beavers eat fish. We're going to talk about the skull in a little bit, but here's another look at the teeth. They are not eating fish. This is an animal that's eating plants, right? They're herbivores. They're eating leaves, shoots, twigs, roots, bark. So they're going to really like willows, aspens, really woody plants. In the water, they might eat aquatic plants like lilies. Now that we're into early June, we're going to start to see kits, which are baby beavers. And beavers themselves are considered monogamous. So they have one mate. And typically they will keep this mate for their whole life. The parents will mate in the winter time. And then mom will be pregnant, we call it a gestation period, for about 100 days before she gives birth. Up to 5 kits, so those are baby beavers kits. Well, she might only just have 1. And this happens right around now in early June. And when these kits are born, they are fully furred, and they do have all their teeth. So let's take some time to look at these teeth. So this is an adult beaver skull. We see the front incisors are orange. That is the natural color. They're not painted. Very, very strong teeth. The enamel has iron in it, giving it that rusty orange color. We are missing a tooth here. But we see this classic herbivore setup where this animal has the incisors, a gap, and then molars. So we see this also with deer skulls. So we've got back molars here for really raking, chewing, grinding up the tough plant matter, the bark. The incisors here are going to be that initial bite, allowing the animal to strip the plant. Okay, that's why they have to be so strong. Eating wood is tough. Okay, so we have where the eyes would sit. We can see the nose. We've got some bone missing here, but inside we can see those curly bones. Those are turbinates. The curlier the turbinates, the better your sense of smell. They're giving you lots of surface area. Okay, we've got essentially the bones for hearing here. We're missing a few molars. But this animal being a rodent, their teeth are constantly growing. So think if you have a pet hamster or a gerbil, you always have to give them something to gnaw on. Same with this wild beaver. So these teeth are constantly growing. They're going to want to chew on the bark to help wear down their teeth as well as this food source. So here we have a beaver chew. Okay, so if you're taking a walk out in the woods by a area with water and you're thinking to yourself, well, does this area have a beaver in it? This is something you want to look for, a beaver chew. This is direct evidence that's telling you, yes, a beaver is living in this area. If we look close, we can kind of see the gouge marks from the teeth. Even though we have Indian Lake here on the Indian Rock Nature Preserve, we do not have any beaver. We have muskrats. And where you see muskrats, you do not see beaver. And when you have beaver, you do not have muskrats. They're kind of direct competitors of each other. And we'll take one more look at those teeth, because I think they're so cool. Teeth are so important, they give us a direct look into the diet of this animal. They give us so many clues about this animal. what they're eating, if they're a predator, if they're more of a hunter, or if they're considered more prey based on where their eye sockets are. We've got looking into the brain cavity here, where the brain would be. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the beaver dams. So these beavers are eating the trees in their area, but they're also using it to make their shelter. So beavers, making their dams, are going to be able to modify their habitat for their needs. And they cut the sticks, branches, and they shove them into the stream bottom, and they pile up mud and other debris on top. So when they dam a stream, they can create a pond. So this can create flooding. So this is going to pile up sediments into the water, which will bring a lot of nutrients in for the wildlife living on the bottom of the pond. And like I said right when we started our live stream, it's also going to kill some plants like standing trees when they get flooded. So that's going to create cavities in which a lot of birds like wood ducks and herons will nest. A lot of woodpeckers. Beavers really do not like the sound of rushing water. So that sound of rushing water attracts them, and that's where they're going to make that dam. So if you're kind of walking on a trail and you walk over a portion of the trail where there's a bridge with rushing water underneath, and maybe there's a drop-off, a lot of beavers will start sticking sticks in that area to kind of stop the sound of the rushing water and try to make that dam. The beaver dam is not their home, not their direct shelter. Down a ways, they're going to make a dome or a teepee-shaped lodge. Again, this is going to be constructed out of sticks, stuck in the mud, and it's going to be upstream from the dam. And it's a little dry chamber where they can rest, raise their young, and eat. And there's usually underwater entrances to the lodge. And they will be active year-round. They're mainly nocturnal, but they can be active during the day. And outside of this lodge, since they're not hibernating, they will make a food store, a food bed, placed right outside of the lodge. They'll anchor all those sticks. Remember, they're eating those sticks to the muddy bottom, and then they'll feed on it during the winter time. Now let's check out that tail. It's a little scaly, leathery looking, but it's very important for this beaver. Very important for this animal. They help it to stand. Their tail helps them to stand up. They use it as a rudder while swimming, so helping them to twist and turn in the water. And when this animal senses danger, they're going to use it to slap against the water to make an alarm sound. The tail is also a place to store some extra fat for this animal during the winter time. But while this animal swims, okay, so we've got the rudder back here, We've got some nice webbed feet for paddles. And the beaver will have a thin membrane over the eyes and the ears and the nose to help trap out water. And the lips, the lips will seal around the teeth to not let water in. So they're very, very adept for swimming. So again, this is a beaver, right? A native animal to Connecticut. A keystone species, creating a habitat for itself and other wildlife species like fish, birds, frogs, salamanders. All because of that beaver dam. And even though this may not be an animal you see a lot out in the wild, because they're going to hear and smell you coming first, this is an animal that we see evidence of through their beaver chews, their dams, their lodges. A lot of people take advantage, we can take advantage recreationally off of ponds or lakes that beavers block up, so we can canoe or kayak or fish. But one way people kind of prevent beavers of chewing down trees is they take a heavy wire and they wrap it around trees to protect it. So that is a little bit about our North American beaver here that we can find in Connecticut. We're going to be back tomorrow on the Environmental Learning Centers of Connecticut Facebook page at 10 a.m. for another environmental topic. As always, if you have an environmental topic that you're interested in, you can always comment below on this video or message us. But thanks for tuning in this morning to learn a little bit about the beaver, and we hope you'll join us again tomorrow morning.